Well, the subject today was actually on the welfare of rabbits. I'm Vice President of the Animal Welfare Intergroup and have been for quite some time. And it's not a topic that's normally, mentioned in every meeting we have. But I think it was a genuinely good idea to have this discussion today, because whether we like it or not, the products from rabbits are used in pet food. People eat rabbit. Actually, we're in France and they eat it quite frequently here. And also there's a huge amount of import from third countries such as China and various other countries around the world.
Is the objection to eating rabbits or to the way rabbits are treated?
With most things, this often comes down to what's called the animal husbandry. How are animals reared? What are they reared for? And in the case of rabbits, they're just really treated badly all round. There appear to be rabbit farms. There's some across Europe. It's not something we generally do in the UK. I think really as a Brit we tend to look at bunny rabbits and children maybe play with them. But I think if we go back to the 60s in the UK, when we had the awful disease that spread throughout the rabbit population called myxomatosis, I think that sort of put the kibosh, put the lid on really the British public eating rabbits. And so I think it's sort of few and far between. But that doesn't mean to say that a small animal like that, which is used in all sorts of cases, used in medicine as well, of course, in research, that they shouldn't be treated properly. I think the concern also really in the committee today was that a huge amount of this rabbit meat is imported from third countries. It's Europe or the EU itself doesn't produce enough for what it's required for. And of course there's no control over how rabbits then are bred and how they are kept in these countries before they're imported into the EU. And there are horrific examples, as there are with many other animals, of rabbit farms where it's just really indescribable. And the fact that they're being slaughtered in countries like China, sadly, there's huge pressures in China of other animals too, and not only China, I hasten to add, where it's just really barbaric the way that these animals are killed. I mean, they're still alive half the time.
But Europe can't really control what happens in China, can it?
Well, we have a good trade. We have good trade links with China. We do a great deal of trade. We import a huge amount of goods from China. We export goods to China. So I think over the years, once China had the Olympic Games, and I don't want to just criticise China, because we have awful animal welfare standards actually in what was the former Western Europe, members of the European Union who actually should know better, sophisticated countries. So it's not just picking on somebody, but you're quite right in the respect that we have a hard enough job within the EU when countries have signed up to a treaty, and it does make it even more difficult. So it's about persuasion, and it's in a number of cases, if you've got good trade links, if there are good relationships, if you can build up cooperation, then it's about the art of persuasion as well. Because I think in a lot of countries where they've had very difficult regimes, they can't change some of the practices overnight. And I think you have to understand that. But it's about persuading them, could they do something else? And it's building up that trust to say, well, yes, of course, we want to do business, but we need to make sure that we've got appropriate standards to do that. And we all need to sort of have a bit of a joined-up way of thinking. So maybe it's a bit sort of pie in the sky, but it's what we wish for, and we need the Commission actually to take some action. I don't believe that the Commission have the will half the time. It appears they're spread across different DGs, whether it's farming, whether we're looking at circuses, or whether we're looking at wildlife trafficking. There are a whole range of animal welfare issues. And in my view, it seems as though the problems get pushed from one department to another. No, we don't actually we can't really do anything about that. And actually, that's not good enough, because, this is in the treaties, and there's no excuse now. I think we in the Animal Welfare Intergroup are actually pretty sick and tired of excuses, and we expect actually the Commission to come up with some far more robust arguments of putting forward the EU views on animal welfare generally.
Last question, should there be a Commissioner for Animal Welfare?
Well, there are. It sort of covers two or three. And as I say, because there's a diverse...
Yeah, but one specific commission.
I think there should be. And what I've actually done, it's in the process actually of being, hopefully, we'll get it out at some stage. I've put forward a basically it's like a resolution, it's a written declaration calling for a one-stop shop, because it's not about building another arm of the Commission, but because animal welfare issues are spread across different DGs, what I'd like to see, and with the support of the Animal Welfare Intergroup and many parliamentarians, is a single entity whereby whomsoever, I don't know, it doesn't matter where they're located, who's DG, but when somebody contacts the Commission with whatever the inquiry is, whether it be a farmer, whether it be a politician, whether it be a consumer, whether it be a charity, an NGO, that the person then that takes that inquiry is responsible and will see through what that inquiry is. Because so often people are contacting these varying DGs and then it seems to go off into cyberspace and they say to me, well, we've been waiting 6 weeks or 3 months and nobody's got back to us. And by the time they get some sort of answer, it's like, well, it's not me, Gov. It's nothing to do with me. That's a different DG. And this is actually not acceptable. We spend billions on the institutions, and the least that they can do, we're all servants of the public, and the least that we can do is be prompt with a reply. And also we need actually the political will, I believe we have in the European Parliament, and I believe we have it in the national parliaments in the member states, but we certainly need far more, I'd say, commissioner will, really, at this end of the equation.